Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I want to highlight a cool elite game I played where I focused on playing nothing but small units and we were facing a board with pretty much nothing but giants. So it's an exciting one for sure. Of course, when this specialist shows up, I can hardly stop myself from clicking it, and so we will be picking up the elite pack with the steel balls and the crawlers. I think this is one of the better packs as well for elite, right? You're already starting with some chaff. Steel balls have great matchups overall. I think only sledgehammer really is a little bit tricky, but even then you will often be completely fine in the early game. So yeah, love this. 5k hit points, everything is looking up for us. Opponent does have a sledgehammer opener though with the hounds, so lots of mid-sized units which could give us some trouble, but I think if we play it correctly and if we kind of leverage the power of the level 2 units we're going to purchase, we should be completely fine. Now what I've really liked doing in these steel ball openers is purchase some hounds. I think these are quite strong, at least on the first couple of rounds, just as a pseudo chaff clear unit. And it will often like hold off the opponent's chaff for long enough so that you can get into more serious chaff clear. On elite though, you can sometimes even just pull them off as your main source of chaff clear. These little guys do get very strong with levels, and you could play for something like range and mech rage, especially when we already have them starting at level 2. And so this has been a setup that I really like to use. I pretty much copy paste this anytime I start with ball crawler or something of the sort, either on the right side or the left side. I'll have a hound here on the line. Steel balls will be 2 squares from the line in the corner. That way I can still fit a wraith in front of it and get some nice synergy with the shallow flank, where I'll often put a crawler as well. We're playing right side this time. Opponent goes for double marksman. He's a Farseer specialist. And yeah, no chaff start for now, but I think our level 2 hounds should be able to, well, definitely fend off the opponent hounds. Level differences in mirror matchups really matter quite a lot, so we should be completely fine here. And yeah, you can see there, my hounds 2-shot his, which is a massive advantage, of course. Looks like we don't have an assassin steel ball this time. Yeah, it's not going to opt to turn, but we do have an assassin hound. Not sure if we need the debuff, but with the help of the crawlers, it'll definitely be a very nice thing to get. 9 seconds of debuff there, and now we're making our way onto the enemy sledgehammers. And that should just be a very, very good first round. It's quite difficult to lose first round on Elite, I will admit. It's probably the strongest level 1 specialist with those 2 level 2 units that you can purchase. And that'll chip down our opponent to near 4k hit points. Now round 2, mass-produced sledgehammer could be an idea, but I didn't really feel like playing that. I was kind of feeling the hound idea here. Like, the enemy board just seemed like it wasn't quite capable of dealing with the hounds just yet. And with those level advantages and the quick teleport offering, I can do some really annoying stuff, like throw some hounds on the flanks. Of course, we're going to go wide as well. I want to prevent any cheese strategies here from being able to get to my tower. And then we'll try and throw one hound on the top right corner, because I was expecting my opponent to purchase some chaff here. And so typically people will put stuff behind their towers and at least part of it should get pulled. And if not, then we'll get a debuff at some point during this round. That will be the end of our turn though. Opponent here taking his time, did go for the quick teleport, so he might be getting flanked. But looks like he won't be going for it just yet. As the fangs on the flanks, or as flank cover, part of them will be getting pulled. And with our hounds spawned in, this is not looking too bad. And he actually went for the incendiary bombs there on the hounds. It's a pretty good tech. I've seen a lot of people make use out of it. The benefit is that you don't require levels on the hounds to make it work, which you definitely do if you want to play something like range and mech rage. However, it also means that leveling your hounds doesn't do like as much, because you are usually going to be relying on the fire to do the clearing for you. And in this type of game, where we're in somewhat of a mirror, my hounds should definitely have the advantage, and I'm not too sure it's that good. I have seen it be strong, but I think into like steel ball, hound, potential like wraith or air unit comps, it tends not to do that well. Assault Fortress here shows up. Of course, I'm elite, so I don't think picking this up is realistic for me. It's going to be really hard for me to get into it this early on. So I think I would prefer just going for some more tempo and pick up that photon coating. Cheap item. I managed to grab a level on the steel ball too, so should create some more problems. And yeah, seeing the investment into the fire hounds, or the hot dogs, as people like to call it, from my opponent, means that I was quite tempted here to try and make hounds work. We pick up the range on round 3, we add 2 more to the field, and suddenly this is starting to look quite menacing for my opponent. Nothing on his board really deals with hounds, and yeah, we should have the advantage. Opponent goes for an air unit flank here. I probably should have done something about this. I'm being a bit greedy here by not defending my towers, but typically I like to be a little bit greedy on aggro until I see my opponent really wants to commit and try to get my towers. And considering he was already into marksman, I don't think going into Phoenix makes that much sense for him, other than trying for the cheese. But, you know, he has to spend a deployment for this. Next turn, maybe he has to, like, jump drive or something of the sort. And even though we will be losing, I add a hound here on the top left flank, I think we should be able to kill most of his stuff. You can see the fire here is doing an okay job killing some of my crawlers, but the hounds are completely fine. And on the outside, we still have a crawler pack left alive. Of course, we do get debuffed, and now the phoenixes are starting to move in from the back. We will get the debuff though. Those flank hounds doing a good job, and as long as we can clear most of the ground units here, I don't mind this too much, right? Opponent went for a Phoenix unlock. That's probably not going to be that useful because he has to sell it or click jump drive, which means that he can't go into range. And it also kind of runs against his marksman investment that he went for early on. Opponent, by the way, did pick up the Assault Fortress card, so it's likely we'll see those show up at some point. Round 4, we get 3 units, and there's a bunch of options here that we could go for. Tarantula probably looks best for my opponent, as it's a really, really good counter to Hound. We could go Overlord, but my opponent does have 2 potentially leveled marksmen, and he's also got a Fire spec, so not too sure if this is what I want. I have seen people pull this off, like Surrey, for instance, with Hound boats, but on Elite, it's going to be tough for me to buy more boats, and so I'd rather pick one of the deployment ones. I think my Shafter is good enough, so I don't need the Tarantulas myself. Rhino could be okay, but likely more of a tempo play. Sabertooth, though, if I'm expecting Tarantula, probably makes more sense, and recently they buffed the efficiency on the missile interceptor of this tech, and it's actually good enough to intercept the Firehound missiles. So I decide to go for this. Opponent here goes for the double Tarantula and picks up his first fortress of the match. And yeah, you'll see me stack these sabers here on the right side. We're selling out of that one steel ball because it wasn't doing too much, and we click the interception tech, which is quite cheap, so I think it's worth a try. If we can like make some of these crawlers survive, we can punish our opponent for not having the best Shafter just yet. Did add the Tarantulas, of course, so it will be somewhat fixed, but I think he still has some issues to deal with. And now we pick up some Wasps, because our opponent doesn't really have the best anti-Wasp units, apart, I guess, from this Farseer, but these are just great at dealing with the flanks, and they're also nice when they arrive late. Maybe we can kill the Farseer before the Wasps arrive, and then they'll be a real nuisance. Opponent kind of tries to call a bluff there, keeps the Phoenixes, and adds another one to the flank, but managed to take those out quite efficiently. And now the steel balls are moving in, and yeah, that fortress, it might be an assault fortress, but it is the one getting assaulted right now. And these steel balls are really taking no prisoners. Steel ball's going to go for the tower yet again, and this is just looking fantastic. Wasps able to kill the Farseer during the debuff. And you could see that actually practically no fire landed this round because of that interception on the sabers. Another good round, sends our opponents down to sub 3k hit points. And now we get deployment module offered. Not sure I want to do anything with that. There's not much for me to move around. I think I'll keep the hounds where they are. So yeah, looks like a skip angle. That makes sense. And now we're starting to invest more into steel balls, because I've noticed that against this build with the Fang and the range, steel balls tend to do quite well into Fortress. They do a bit more poorly if your opponent is running Overload, but because so many people are running kind of this setup currently, steel balls have a pretty decent matchup into Fortress. And well, we could see last round he was really struggling against the steel ball pack, and considering I can recruit them at level 2, I think we have a decent shot at trying to out-tempo our opponent here. So now I'm turning my attention to the left side tower. I put some steel balls on the flank. Of course, we still have the quick teleport. And that should allow us to kill this Farseer relatively quickly. And then we're also turning our attention here to the front line, trying to get into that tower. Right side is looking good. I could use a tech on the steel balls, but I currently don't have money for it. And opponent here, expensive round for him, took the deployment module, sold a Phoenix, moved the other one to the front line, and went for range on the Fortress and range on the Tarantulas. I think on the Tarantulas it's quite good, but not so sure these Fortresses are going to be able to pull off much of anything. And yeah, look at that. The fire just not landing at all. Saber's doing a great job. Steel balls spawned in, will kill that Farseer, which means his left tower should fall relatively soon. Steel balls are locked onto the Fortress on the right side. We'll take that down shortly. Only one left, and now the Wasps are coming in. And yeah, keep in mind, opponent doesn't really have a good answer to this. And I'm not so sure he has a good answer to much of anything on my board. I mean, maybe the Hounds could get countered by the Tarantulas, but he doesn't have too many of those. And so now we're kind of starting to stack problem on top of problem. And none of these have like a singular unit that the opponent can buy to solve it, right? Hounds, I mean, he needs more Tarantulas, but the Tarantulas won't necessarily be that good into the high-level steel balls. They also won't help with the Wasp. And then anything that could deal with Wasp really, like, kind of puts the rest of his board behind, right? He could click Anti-Air Barrage, but clicking that into 2 untech Wasp packs must feel pretty bad. Now here, another skip. I could go for Nuke, but I just like building a solid board on Elite, and picking up these spells is expensive, which often means that I won't have the money to do what I want to do in terms of buying techs and yeah, getting my deployments down. So I decide to skip. Opponent goes for the same thing by the looks of it. We'll just go for more Fortresses, and I decide to go for more steel balls, pick up that range, and add some more crawlers here on the right side. Opponent hasn't really made use of a missile. I mean, it would just slow down the steel balls, but at this point I want to just make sure that these guys are full health. Absorption would be good too, but I prioritize the range here to try and get the insta-lock on the left side too. And to be honest, this is still looking like we can probably make our way into this left tower. Oil being purchased will slow down my army on the right side somewhat. But this is still looking like we should be somewhat favored. Left side tower is really undefended, and my opponent has had to buy like so many big units that he hasn't really had the chance to buy a lot of chaff from the looks of it. Another Fortress shows up. He might click Fang production here at some point, but I'm not too sure that's going to deal with the air threat. Let's see how this plays out. Steel balls will kill that Farseer. Phoenixes will kill the final steel ball of the pack by the looks of it, but now we're starting to move in. These steel balls here on the right, able to lock onto that Fortress. Looks like it will go down. No absorption just yet, sadly, but we're managing to kill more Fortresses. The Hounds are doing a good job too. Really can't understate how much they've been doing. And now the steel balls will get to the tower. The Hounds will take another debuff. And we don't have too many units left alive, but again, it is another round win. And our opponent can't take too many more of these, right? Sitting at 1800 hit points, probably will be sent down to close to 1000. Oh, never mind. I say that. The Phoenixes survive, yeah. I mean, he might not have the best anti-air, but neither do we. And with the Wasps having such low range, they fly straight into their death. And so we can't deal with the Phoenixes. So never mind about that damage taken. We are the ones taking 200 here. Not the worst, of course. And round 7, we were due some free unit drops. So here they are. Phantom Ray looks fantastic. Opponent still doesn't have anything solid in terms of anti-air. So adding another threat that needs a different response. Right? Mustangs would work against Wasp, but not so much against Phantom. Should really help out. Stormcaller could be an idea too, but the air units here just seem so strong. And again, I'm trying to prioritize the left side because right side has a bunch of oil and is, I guess, his strong side. Has like 2 level 2 Tarantulas. Fortresses over there are leveling. There's just a little bit more stuff defending. So turning our attention to the left side. Opponent goes for the worm and sells it. Has 1900 resources available, so it is going to be a big turn. More Fortresses hit the field. And I do pick up the energy absorption. Still, opponent here not opting to put anything in front of the steel balls. I do have the hound behind, so that was kind of the idea, that I'd be able to deal with any chaff as fast as I can, but it probably still would be worth it for my opponent, because now I'm getting some insta-locks, and with Absorb, you might be able to take down this Fortress and the Farseer, which would definitely be worth it for a singular ball pack. We're also utilizing Mobile Beacon to avoid some of the oil. Turn our attention to the left side. Phantoms have been added now as well. Opponent goes for Fang Spawn and Fang Shield, which is could be a little bit tricky, but I think when you have this many hounds, I can probably just go Mech Rage, and that should fix the problem. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fortresses now, and those will spawn 10 fangs each. So that's going to be 60 in total, about 3 packs. But considering how quick all of the engagements are going to be, he might not be able to spawn another wave. And we're getting close to his tower yet again. The wasps that I purchased and added to the flank, killing the fortress there. And yeah, opponent has had to invest into the Fang spawn here, but that doesn't address the air threat well enough. Level 1 Fangs are not going to cut it against these high-level Wasps and Phantoms. And so we managed to kill all of the fortresses, and there's just not enough stuff left. Big round as we keep pressing the air advantage, and that'll send our opponent down to 300 hit points. Can we finish it off before this comp really gets online? Incendiary Bomb is offered, and I do decide to pick it up. If I can land this with something like the oil, it should be an insta-win, and if not, it's not the worst investment. So you will see me go for fire here with an oil purchase as well. Opponent goes for the Incendiary Bomb too. I have some crawlers on the right side, but I have to say most of my chaff right now is just going to come from the hounds, which shouldn't care about the fire too much. And yeah, we pick up the Mech Rage just for that little bit of extra chaff clearing speed, and that should be plenty to deal with all of these fangs if the fire doesn't land. I also decide to add a crawler right in front of the fortress so that it doesn't insta-lock the steel balls, but the steel balls insta-lock the fortress in return. And let's see how we pull this off. I could purchase more Phantoms as well. I really don't think my opponent has a good response here. He could click Forte A, but I don't think Forte A cuts it against level 3 Phantoms. And even the level 3 Wasps can at least take one shot from Forte A missiles each, right? They have 933 hit points, and those missiles deal 900 apiece. And so we just add more Phantoms on the left side, and we decide to click the burst mode just to get a bit of extra DPS down, because these are still assault fortresses, one of them levels. And yeah, we need to try and close this out quickly before he can spawn multiple waves of fortresses. Looks like fire won't really land, just a little bit in the middle, which will kill some fangs, but not the best value. Left side, however, value is through the roof as we take down the one and only level 2 fortress he had. And now the Phantom Rays are moving in. That first burst not looking too good, but with the steel balls on the tower and the debuff, we should be able to grab a victory here. Steel balls still alive, and of course they have the absorption available, so they will heal up from anything they damage. And as the left side air army is moving in, that will be plenty to win the game here on round 8 and not send this to a round 9. And yeah, another clean elite game. Really quite enjoyed this one. Bit of an unusual comp, but this is what Elite sometimes excels at. If you're in the driver's seat, if you feel like you're ahead and you can dictate the game, this can be such an oppressive specialist to play against, because you just kind of stat check your opponent, right? Opponent went for Hound, we go for level 2 Hounds, and we kind of go for the better carry techs. So we are already winning in that matchup. We're managing to buy these level 2 steel balls, which are good into the enemy fortresses, and then we also leverage the fact that these air units we have are a serious threat on top of things. And yeah, opponent here just kind of runs out of options. Didn't buy enough chaff in the early game, tried to stabilize, and I'm sure that if the game goes very long, he would win this, because Fortress Fang Spawn is still super strong, but it seems like he just didn't have the money to get the anti-air barrage online in time. And honestly, I don't even think it would have done enough. These Phantom Rays can tank multiple of those Forte A barrages and still be completely fine. And with the speed of these rounds, I don't think he'd be able to get more than like 2 salvos off, really. Also, left side here, the steel ball, insane value, right? Opponent definitely should have put something in front. The Fang spawn actually will take place after the lock. So even though you spawn chaff, it's not going to prevent the insta-lock from happening here. And he really should have added something. But man, that quick TP, really annoying. That Wasp addition to just creating more trouble. And yeah, we take the round and we take the game even. If you like this game, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down below what you think of Elite Spec, Elite Hound. Have you been playing it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Just let me know. And then with that being said, if you want to see me play live, please check me out on Twitch. And if you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. And take care, guys. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.